Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have an absolute barnstormer of semi-final to get through. It's Ons Jabeur versus Aryna Sabalenka. Neither player has won Wimbledon. Ons Jabeur's made the final last year, of course, and Sabalenka made the semi-finals 2 years ago, her last appearance at SW19. So she's looking to go one step further. They play each other 4 times, and Sabalenka leads the head-to-head 3-1. We're going to get into the detail, talk about their route to the semi-finals, also their head-to-head as well, so the match they played and what surfaces they played on and what that might mean. And then I will also look at it from a more strategic and technical standpoint and ultimately give you guys my prediction. Before we get into it, though, remember to that like button. Do subscribe if you're new and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Also, shout out to our members. I genuinely am so grateful to all of you. Okay, let's get into this then. So, Ons Jabeur, she actually played today, as did Aryna Sabalenka. They both had very impressive victories, but in different ways. Ons Jabeur avenged her loss to Alina Rybakina, of course, who was her arch nemesis, although I think there is definitely respect and they do like each other, I think, off court. But on court, of course, Ons Jabeur lost Rybakina last year in 3 sets at Wimbledon in the final. Now, this time it was different because last year Jabeur took the first set and then she went on to lose the next 2. This year, Rybakina in the quarterfinals took the first set in a tiebreaker, albeit Jabeur was actually serving for the set 6-5. She got broken back, lost a tiebreak, and then Jabeur actually beat Rybakina in the second and third sets to take it. So it was a complete flip, mirror image really of last year's result. And Jabeur said after, of course, she would happily have swapped the 2 victories, right, and had that Wimbledon final. But a real step in the right direction. She'll take a lot of confidence from that victory, of course, because that loss was her first ever Grand Slam final. She went into it the favourite. She would have had a lot of nightmares about it. She said for a few weeks she did. And she went into this one actually the underdog. Rybakina was one of, if not the favourite, to defend her title. Now she comes up against Sabalenka, and we'll talk about how the stars might gel there a little bit because Sabalenka has different qualities to Rybakina, but also a lot of similarities. So that win against Rybakina, very, very impressive. And I think not just from a skill perspective, even, and performance perspective, but also from a mental standpoint, especially after losing the first set. She also beat Kvitova in straight sets, and Andreescu was a very hard match as well. She came back from a breakdown in the final set to beat Andreescu impressively in 3, and also beat Bayan Freck. For Sabalenka, she's had some very interesting results. Only dropped the 1 set against Gracheva, which was a pretty weird and random one. And that's no disrespect to Gracheva, but I think some of the other players that she's played, like Alexandrova, like Madison Keys, you'd maybe expect to drop a set potentially against them. But in the end, she drops to the French woman. But she beat Edvardi in straight sets, then Gracheva, of course, the win in 3. Blinkova in straight sets. Alexandrova and Madison Keys, both big serving, big hitting players. She beat them both in straight sets. And they're in a similar ilk, you'd say, to Sabalenka, but maybe not quite as good. I think that's fair to say, given the rankings and given that Sabalenka has also won the Australian Open this year. She's definitely playing, in my opinion, the best tennis of her career. She's won, even the Australian Open. She made the semi-finals even of Roland Garros. She was very close to making the final. She had match points against Mukova. Now she's in the semi-finals of Wimbledon. I mean, this is an incredible year for her so far, and there's a couple of reasons I think why she has improved her game. And if you're very interested to have a massively in-depth analysis on that, there's actually a video that I did on Sabalenka, and it's in the Beyond the Data series that we have in association with Beyond Tennis. Do go and check out that playlist, and there's an episode on her, not just talking about her from a technical standpoint, but also integrating some stats to back up those thoughts. Okay, let's then talk about the head-to-head. So you can see here, Jabeur and Sabalenka played each other 4 times. Once at the French Open, which is the only victory that Jabeur has over Sabalenka, beat her in 3 sets in 2020. They then played each other twice in 2021. Sabalenka won in straight sets, beating Jabeur in Abu Dhabi. And then at Wimbledon, which I think this is a really important one, of course, given it's on grass, Sabalenka went on to the semi-finals, and on her route to that, she beat Ons Jabeur in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4. So, not an absolute demolition, but a clinical performance. And then quite recently in November 2022, so just over 6 months ago now, 7 months ago. She beat Ons Jabeur again and won 3-6, 7-6, 7-5. So actually a very, very tight one in the end. And Ons Jabeur would have been a little bit disappointed maybe not to take that tiebreaker. But look, I mean, Sabalenka leads the head-to-head 3-1, and that is a real confidence boost for the Belarusian. But for Ons Jabeur, she's got this, I think, little twinkle in her eye, and definitely there's something magical about her on grass at Wimbledon, and she probably feels like she's got unfinished business, of course, after losing final last year. And you could argue, and I'm not saying it's necessarily true, but in the other semi-final, that is Svitolina and Vondrousova, that this is worthy of being a final, no doubt. Jabeur Rybakina, which was a final last year, so it is worthy of being a final. Jabeur Sabalenka, both worthy of being finals. And you could argue that this match is, whoever comes out of this match is going to be the favourite going into the final. That's my view on it anyway. So this is a massive match because whoever wins this will be the favourite, I think, in the final. And most likely, I think, probability-wise, will end up becoming a champion. And neither player, of course, has won, but a title here at SW19. But it could definitely be one of them. Right, okay. Let's then get into the strategic and technical standpoint. So Ons Jabeur, I talked about it, and if you haven't watched the preview that I did for Rybakina and Jabeur, I'd recommend checking it out. I thought it was quite good how I broke down the styles of both players and how they might gel together. So for Jabeur, how did she play today? Well, there's a few things she did really well against Rybakina. I'll mainly mention that. I won't go into huge depth. I'll try and keep it short. She served a lot better, did Ons Jabeur today, I thought, against Rybakina. Her first serve percentage has been very, very low against a lot of opponents, especially against Kvitova at 38%. Now, she just played some really lights out tennis from the back of the court. First serve percentage was up a little bit at 54%, but 8 aces. She actually hit more aces than Rybakina today, which is really good. Hit her spots when she was making her first serve. Then also won 76% behind her first serve, 52% behind her second serve. The slice serve that she hits, can be attackable, definitely, but what she did quite well is going to the body at times, and it's a very underrated serve, I think, on grass, and that was really impressive. Also saved 7 out of 9 break points at clutch and 35 winners to 89 forced errors. Came to the net 11 times and won 9 out of those 11 points. So, yeah, good from her, and also passed, you can see a 45% for a back and at the net, 10 out of 22 points were on the net. So Jabeur is very good at passing at the net. You got to be good. And Sabalenka is definitely better than Rybakina at the net. So she'll have a bit more success, you'd imagine. In terms of Jabeur, the one she brings, so yeah, she does have the ability, even though she doesn't serve as big as a Sabalenka or Rybakina, to hit aces because her accuracy is very good and she has enough pop to be able to hit aces and unreturnables. And she's also very good behind her serve, her first serve. That +1 shot's really good forehand or backhand. She tends to have a lot of pop on it, and she did really well today, generally speaking, with it. The other thing I thought she did really well was mixing up with the slice, of course, when needed. And against Sabalenka, that's really key as well. Like with Rybakina, you want to mix up rhythm. And I think with Jabeur, she needs to, mix up speeds and paces and angles. I think depth is the one thing that stays constant unless you're going to hit very short angles and drop shots, of course. And I think Jabeur does that very well. She mixes it up, and she mixed it up to probably the right level today, which is why she came out on top. Because even in that first set where she lost, there are a couple of points here or there which she could have played better, but she was serving for the set, so she obviously was playing well enough to win that set even. So there weren't massive dips in her play, which is good as well in terms of her consistency, especially from the back of the court. She is prone to having big dips, and you can't afford to have big dips against players like a Rybakina or even a Sabalenka. At the moment, they're just playing too well. And if you have that big dip, they can take the match away from you. So Jabeur, she's got a flat forehand as well. And for me, her best shots are the forehand and backhand down the line. If we're excluding the drop shot, of course. She's got great hands in the net, we know, so she's going to come forward. And she's very good at being able to mix up with the forehand slice, being able to hit little dinks, and she's just got a lot of variety, soft hands, a great feel. And it just means that her game is so suited to the grass because of it. But what she utilized really well today, I thought, was the backhand line, and I just mentioned it. She I think used it so well because Rybakina has a very solid backhand, and to be fair, Sabalenka's backhand is arguably very solid as well, especially in comparison to her forehand. Her forehand actually is more hurtful, I would say, um, but sometimes it can be a bit more erratic than a backhand. I think a backhand might not necessarily hurt you as much, although she can hurt you on both wings, definitely, but it's a bit more consistent. So what Jabeur might do is try and go line. And what she was doing, she was going line and going very close to the tram line. She wasn't giving herself a massive margin for error, it has to be said, but she was nailing it. She was executing it really well, and it was very flat. And especially for someone like a Rybakina or Sabalenka, someone at that height, if it's coming at pace and that low, it's difficult to hit anything effective on that forehand side. And what Jabeur did really well is not even just hit one, but the forehand then that would come back would be a defensive slice forehand, and then she trying to again access the Jabeur backhand so they wouldn't get hurt again. And then Jabeur would go backhand line again. She was hitting winners and hitting forced errors. I was really impressed with that part of her game today, and I think it's something that she needs to utilize against Sabalenka because she will have success with it again. And she also, there's a few things that we can touch on before we get to Sabalenka. That first serve percentage cannot go any lower than it has at 54%. She needs to be able to get 3 points on serve with aces unreturnables. If she can push that first serve percentage even higher, even better. And the second serve, it needs to be on point. She needs to vary it up, make sure that Sabalenka is not able to just easily predict where it's going to go because Sabalenka, like Rybakina, if the second serve is not on point for large periods of the match, then they will pounce on it and they will destroy the second serve. They'll hit return winners. They'll put Jabeur on the back foot. What she also needs to do is returning wise, and what she did today was very good. I thought go deep down the middle, mix it up, make sure that she's making those returns, and she made a lot of returns today against Rybakina, who is arguably the best server on tour. Sabalenka though is not too far off. So look, I mean, if Sabalenka serves well, then Jabeur's going to have to kind of very much, in my opinion anyway, she needs to tune into that really superior returning ability that she has at her disposal and dig deep. She's going to have to scamper at times and hustle, and she did that against Rybakina well, made her play the extra shot at times, induced the error. She's going to have to do that against Sabalenka. She also moves very well on the surface, and I think defensively and conditioning wise, she's looking good. So let's see how she gets on. For Sabalenka, there's a few things. Her serve, she needs to hit her spots, I think, definitely. And her serve is not maybe as powerful as Rybakina's, it's a little bit less, but she doesn't hit as many aces, but she hits a lot of unreturnables. She backs it up really well as well with the backhand or forehand. Her serve plus one is a really effective weapon, and one of the best in the business. What she's also done is add a bit of variety to her game. So in the past, it was wham bam, just full out power, and there wasn't any real variation. She's added a backhand slice, which is pretty good as well. And I wouldn't say it's elite, but it's a good serviceable slice. I also think what she's done quite well, and I'm really kind of impressed with, is her ability to say, like, okay, I need to add a rally shot to my arsenal. I can't just hit everything at 100% constantly. And she's acknowledged, I think, the fact that she needs to be able to have a bit of variation with her groundies. And that means, okay, at times, unless I'm on the front foot and I have a gimme ball, I need to hit with a little bit more margin over the net and also a little bit of margin within the lines, because I've got enough power that I can generate enough topspin to still push players back with pace and topspin, but with bigger targets. And it might take me one or two more shots than I would like or would have done in the past, but it will cut out more than 50% of the errors that I was making, and she's making a lot less unforced errors because of that. And she's hitting a lot more winners in the end because the points might be slightly longer, but she's inevitably dragging players out and then opening up space to hit an easy winner rather than forcing the issue. And she's become a lot more patient, and that makes her a lot more dangerous, but she hasn't lost that killer instinct. That's key. So for me, Sabalenka, she was my pick to win Wimbledon. I think she's the favorite going into this as well. I genuinely think that, even though Jabeur's just beating Rebecca, I think mentally that's a really, really big victory. Sabalenka with the head-to-head, with how she's playing, with how she played all year, she is the favourite, just in my book. However, saying that, like with Rebecca and Jabeur, I'm going to go for Jabeur. And I'll tell you why. Even though the head-to-head points towards Sabalenka, I think Jabeur is playing some inspired tennis, but not just that. I think playing Rebecca before Sabalenka, even though they're not exactly the same player, they have so many similarities that it's going to really help, I think, Jabeur play against Sabalenka, whereas I think Keys is so different to Jabeur. They're worlds apart. Madison Keys is more of the ilk of Rebecca and Sabalenka. So I do think Sabalenka is going to have to adapt a little bit, of course, early doors. If Jabeur can take an early lead, which I think is possible, and take the first set, Sabalenka is going to fight, and it's going to be close because Sabalenka doesn't capitulate, and she hasn't capitulated like this in a while, especially in big, big matches. That French Open semi-final, I think it's unfair to say it was a capitulation. She was in the lead, but she still fought till the very end. So I'm going to go for Jabeur in 3 sets again to repeat her feat from last year and make the final. Sabalenka, though, and I said this yesterday with the Rebecca prediction against Jabeur, she is the safe pick. She is. I'm just being honest about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if you guys in the comment section pick her. She's got so much power. Jabeur's going to have to soak that up. She really is. And she's going to have to make sure that she's not making it comfortable for Sabalenka, making her feel uncomfortable, different paces, different angles, making Sabalenka have to hit balls on the stretch. And we'll see. Jabeur's capable of doing it. Can Sabalenka say, okay, I'm going to be the one in control on the front foot? And if so, she's going to come out on top. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Remember to that like button. Do subscribe if you're new. And also, if you want to become a member, there's some really cool perks as well. And it really does help out the channel. So thank you to everyone. As always, great to have your support. We will be doing a live watch along for this tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that. Cannot wait to watch this one as well. It's going to be a fantastic match. And yeah, I mean, look, both these players played today, so they're going to be fresh. They're going into tomorrow. Jabeur play an extra set, but I think they'll be fine. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you in the next video.